Video game joke. Insert punchline here.
The difference between stupid parodies and clever parodies can be a bit grayed. Being able to balance timing, context, and relevance is a challenging art. Some of my favorites that manage to balance those well are Naked Gun or Airplane. Typically, parody films like these have a very loose plot merely to facilitate jokes and punchlines throughout the film. They don't really do anything incredible, but they never really set out to do anything incredible either, just to make people laugh. But what happens when you try to do that with a game? An interactive medium that has very little control over the way in which people see and experience context, and even less control over the timing of a punchline. JazzPunk, in a sense, is a kind of parody game, and it lands between a clever parody and a stupid parody. Developed by Necrophone Games and published by Adult Swim Games, it's not directly parodying a specific game, but rather styles, themes, stereotypes, and tropes within film, culture, technology, and of course, games. I think that while it was a good effort, JazzPunk is very hit or miss. When it's clever, it can be very clever, but when it falls flat for me, it just drags the whole experience down. JazzPunk is references and puns the game, or put very harshly, haha, get it? The circle jerk. JazzPunk is a first-person exploration game. You walk around and you click on things to see what happens. There are random side missions, minigames, and lots of puns. JazzPunk has 11 chapters. These chapters range from you walking around the corner and sitting down to a chapter of you in a resort, exploring all the gags and jokes included for perhaps 20 to 30 minutes. If you filter all the filler out, you maybe have 5 real missions. The plot is very basic. The first chapter, you get into a building and steal something. In chapter 2, you find a guy and steal something from him. In the last few chapters, you steal something from someone, he gets mad and kidnaps your coworkers. That's basically it. The game is as short and to the point as you want. JazzPunk basically has no story, nothing more that can be summed up in maybe a sentence. However, the theme of this kind of game does not inherently need one. In essence, only the last 2 or 3 chapters are connected together. The rest are just independent mini-plots to introduce you to more of the randomness of the game. Outside of that, the premise of JazzPunk is that you're an agent called Polyblank. You work for an agency which apparently only consists of 2 other people. The world is in an alternate Cold War setting, where there's lots of spying, men in trench coats in alleyways, tape recorders, and people hiding around corners. Though besides that, none of that theming really sets in, except for the first mission. Otherwise, the feeling of it being in a kind of Cold War setting is only felt in some small ways, like the decor in homes, designs on some electronics, and maybe some phrases. You could probably replace all the styles and designs in the game, and it wouldn't change the purpose of what's going on, or the context of any scene. Now, certainly, the design and style of the music, signs, buildings, and decorations is great, and I love it, but it has next to no impact on really anything that happens besides fitting in with maybe some of the random sound effects. Now, I think it's worth mentioning that this game is really short. Really short. If you just do the main missions, you could be done in less than 30 minutes, and half of that is unskippable sequences. If you do everything, absolutely everything, you might get 2.5 hours. Literally, all achievements, all dialogue, all minigames, talking to everyone, checking out every gag, every single room, every detail of the game, maybe 3 hours if you're slow. The issue with the length is made more obvious because the end of the game is made so crude. It almost feels like a joke, and then you realize, no really, the game is over. Was this going to be like a Zelda level? Wait. Is that it? You gotta be kidding me. I knew it was short, but that ending? Now, like I said, the meat and potatoes of this game is all the jokes, gags, punchlines, and silly characters. However, the writing and humor in this game is where things get a bit muddy. When I first played JazzPunk's first half hour or so back when it launched, I merely wanted to get a taste of how it played, the performance and the visuals for a possible Let's Play in the future. And I loved it. I thought the writing was great, the visual style and the jokes and the little game scattered around were fantastic. Having finished it, the strongest part of the game is that first mission. And it's the strongest for one major reason. It introduces the writing and humor style before it becomes repetitive to the point of becoming dull. JazzPunk's written humor comes, for the most part, in the form of puns relating to technology, games, or movie culture. And except for maybe 4 or 5 characters, everyone's dialogue is just an exercise about how many puns and references you can fit into one game.
I will be your dedicated server tonight.
Are you looking for the bus terminal?
It's impolite to ask a lady her front weight. How big is your creation mesh?
Besides those few characters, no character's dialogue actually matters. It has no purpose within the context of the mission or anything. It's just 5 to 10 sentences of some sort of pun relating to games or technology. This is, in a way, the Family Guy of games. JazzPunk can be, and generally is, very funny. However, when you stand back and take a broader look, you realize its humor is just due to its randomness, and that reminds me of the time when I, etc. Again, Family Guy and JazzPunk both can make someone laugh, but seconds later you think to yourself, wow, that was stupid. That's the best way I can describe the humor in writing in JazzPunk. It will make you laugh, sometimes a lot, but generally you will pick up on its repetition and patterns, and your response later in the game is, oh look, you made a reference to a computer thing again. Neat. Oh look, it's another pun. Interesting how you fit that word into that sentence. That's cool, I guess. This game just shovels references at you at an unhealthy rate to the point where it hurts it. So, outside of all those passive jokes, JazzPunk has some small minigames scattered around. But once again, these are inserted kind of oddly. It was as if, in the middle of the night, a developer of Necrophone Games woke up and was like, I have a great idea. Let's make a fake Quake game in JazzPunk. Now how can we shoehorn it into the level?
Welcome to Wedding Quake.
And cue Wedding Quake, one of the minigames scattered throughout JazzPunk. You enter this by clicking on a wedding cake either on the beach or in the restaurant of the resort level. In this game, you are trying to basically shoot other grooms and wives running after you, reach 10 marriages to win the game. But like the other jokes and gags, there is no setup for it. There are no newlyweds, no one is engaged, no one talks about being married, no one says anything like that. Someone just came up with the name Wedding Quake and wanted to put it in the game for seemingly no reason. It was certainly fun, but again, why was it in the game and what was the setup for it? Some of the other minigames are things like exterminating some bugs from a kitchen, swatting flies in a shop, playing Twister, Fruit Ninja, or playing a rendition of Frogger. Most of these last 20 to 30 seconds usually, so even the side games like these just don't amount to much at all. The objective in this game is to simply explore and find things. It's in its nature. But I did find that the consistency of content through some areas was lacking. Typically, you can walk anywhere and find something to interact with. However, there is one part in this game that completely boggles my mind. In the resort level, you can find a bellboy and steal his master key and open any door. There is also an achievement to check out some other rooms adjacent to your own room. 2 or 3 of these have content that are kind of interesting, but no other rooms have content. I checked every single room on every level. All of them are the same. If you talk to the bellboy, he'll say the 4th floor is the most luxurious, but it's the same as every other floor. He says the 2nd floor is haunted, but nothing happens in any room on the 2nd floor. He says the 1st floor is the poorest one, but it's exactly the same as every other floor. The game for the most part teaches you to explore everywhere and click on everything. But the 40-something rooms you look in are exactly the same. No special content to find, no Easter eggs, no achievements, nothing. It honestly really bugged me because the dialogue in the game alluded to there being something in there. JazzPunk's visuals are very mild, but work quite well. The textures are simply flat shapes and shades, the world is incredibly colorful and bright, and given it's based in an alternate Cold War universe, the designs on storefronts, computers, and advertising is all done perfectly to replicate the styles of yesteryears. As you progress through the game, you will notice that subtitles, objectives, and other text is shown in real space, on walls, on the front of buildings, or sitting in midair. It's an interesting design choice that I think works really well for the style of visuals. For instance, in some areas you can pick up a bottle of Placebex, and these pills will play with the pseudo-reality of the world. The first time around, it will place words on a wall and shatter them right in front of you. In my opinion, the humor surrounding stuff like Pussybex is probably the best in the game. It's not really overt, it's just a very mild joke that is surprising but still clever. It doesn't just shout at you telling you it's funny. The music in JazzPunk is kind of scarce but absolutely spot on. It fits the atmosphere of the game perfectly, and not only that, it's pretty good to listen to. Granted, it loops a fair bit, but it's a nice background throughout the chapters and rooms in the game. There are some fun little treats spread around the game, like the classic Wilhelm scream if someone falls over, or classic cartoon sounds for comedic effect. This is something I'm glad is actually in. Using those familiar stock sounds really works for this title and its theme. So, with everything I talked about in mind, JazzPunk is fun and entertaining. It's just short, and has a lot of lame jokes and strangely empty areas with oddly low amounts of content. It kind of feels like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon in a way. The game basically has no replay value at all unless you already tend to overlook things. I did a second playthrough looking in every corner and missed maybe 1 to 2 gags and minigames, which equated to maybe 3 minutes of playtime. You can even do all the achievements easily in one session as long as you read them beforehand. To summarize, it has a great visual style of the props and environments, the music is perfectly fitting, and the voices are fun. The gags and punchlines are indeed funny and entertaining, if quite repetitive. And it's something out of the ordinary that doesn't take itself too seriously. It's just criminally short and empty. With that said, for the regular price of $15, I honestly don't think I would recommend JazzPunk. At least not to everyone. Only certain people probably will get some enjoyment out of this game. However, on a sale for $5 or maybe $10, it would be a recommendation for most people. Many people raved about this game, and I did too, until I actually finished it. But again, all of this is in my honest opinion. I would like to thank Adult Swim Games for sending me a copy of this game for review back in February. If you enjoyed this review, please subscribe to this channel to be updated when I do another video. I have a playlist in the description for all my other reviews. Please rate the video and comment on what you thought. Did you play JazzPunk? How did your opinion differ? Let me know. I'm on Twitter and Facebook where I post updates on projects. I also have a Patreon campaign if you're interested in supporting me and my projects here on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.